Welcome to Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast, with your host, author, and music lover, Charles Campbell. Charles will have an awesome array of guests from many genres of music, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. By the way, Ray Mattis is the composer of this awesome intro music.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Backstage 421, the Musicians Only podcast. I'm your host, small town horror author Charles Campbell, and today I have two very special guests on the show. I kind of discovered them through social media on Instagram. They were running this promotion, giving away for free a CD that is way worth more than free, I can tell you that. It's called The Way I Heard It in My Head. They are two members of the group Cara Van Thorn. This is the CD I picked up, and we have Adam Donovan and Carrie Stevens. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so happy to have you. And the free CD offer was awesome. You guys sent it quickly, and they sent a little thank you card, personalized, sent me a little note in here. That was amazing. But we'll get started with, if you guys, one at a time, give my listening audience a little background about yourself and kind of how you got into the music business, and then we'll go from there.
I guess I'm going first.
Ladies first.
Well, I grew up in musical theater, so I've always been into music in some form, loved it. There is somewhere, it may have been, I don't know, taped over at some point, but at some point when I was like 8 or 9, I made my brother do backing vocals for a Paula Abdul style cover of Peanut Butter and Jelly. So music,
I wish you still had that.
I do too. So music has just really always been a part of my life, and moving to Austin, I got in touch. I've not got in touch. Adam and I were in a band together called Donkey Island, and that's kind of how we connected. And fun story about Donkey Island, there is a little bit of background here. So The Way I Hear It in My Head, which is the name of the CD that you have, it stemmed from a conversation we had with one of our bandmates. And he literally said to us, just play it the way I hear it in my head. And so it's become kind of an inside joke between us.
An inside joke, because when we're writing, it's almost like she's in my head and I'm in hers, because we once wrote a song on opposite sides of the globe and we didn't even know we were doing it. So it's kind of a joke about that, and also a joke about our current writing progress and how we do things.
Do you want to talk about how?
No, go ahead. You're.
I mean, that was really it. That's how we got together. That band kind of fell apart, and we were like, because we were so simpatico with our musical taste, we just thought, let's start our own band and do some crazy things. And so that's why, even though we've sort of landed on this like new jazz, new swing kind of sound for the majority of our music, we never wanted to put too many limitations on ourselves or the other musicians in our band. And so like the latest song that just came out last Friday, totally different, very
Rage,
goth,
was that
EDM, Rage.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. We had a write up about it where you literally said we went into beast mode for that one.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I've told a lot of the female guests that I've had on my podcast that my music, for me, is estrogen driven. I listen to a lot of female artists now. I like the guys too, but my playlist is majority women. So I enjoy listening to female artists, and you have a very unique sound, Carrie. And one of the things that I saw in the bio you sent me, you said you move anywhere from, you have a sound that's reminiscent of Blondie, Tori Amos, Evanescence, and I wrote a note, and the song Home, when I listened to that before I read this bio, and it's funny you put this in here, I wrote on this sheet of paper Evanescence vibe. So I got an Evanescence vibe from that song.
Nice.
When I listened to it. So I got 2 CDs from you guys. I got The Way I Heard It in My Head, and this one had an interesting cover. The Coco Can't Turn Left.
Also an inside joke.
Okay, I want to hear what that inside joke is, but this is your EP. Guys, you can go to CarrieVanThorn.com. CaraVanThorn.com. I don't want to mispronounce the name of Carrie in my head. I'm a Stephen King fan. CaraVanThorn.com, and they have all kinds of cool stuff. They have CDs, they have T-shirts, they have vinyl, so you can check it out there. But give me the background
Kazoogles.
on gazoogles and stuff. So give me the background on Coco Can't Turn Left in this cover. What's the inside joke here?
So the inside joke is Carrie's partner Tristan. When I first met him, he had just had an accident where he broke his hip. What he broke his hip.
He fell off his bicycle and broke his hip.
And that's the cover why the guy's eating his shit face down on the cover of the album, because we had to find something that fit that. But also after he had he had cured himself from that, whatever. Healed from that. He was driving Carrie's car and was turning left and somehow ended up on the side. The car ended up on its side.
Oh, he got hit. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's where it came from. There's another story about why we call him Coco, but I promise not to tell that story anymore. It embarrasses him too much.
Okay, I'll pause. Not really. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Not gonna put you on the spot like that. Oh man, that's pretty good.
Suffice it to say, his nickname is Coco. We just won't get into why that's his nickname.
It's a long story.
Well, I have, just listening to the music and the vibe, I kind of have an idea of, some of the influences you guys may have had, but I want to hear it from you coming up, when you were aspiring to be musicians. And again, you can do this one at a time or you can bounce off each other. Who are some of your influences coming up in music and kind of made you want to be a musician?
Well, when I first started playing music, I was in the 4th grade. I started playing trombone, and everyone at my school played an instrument, and that was just the one that I picked. And happened to be a thing that later on I got into jazz, and trombone was a pretty prominent instrument in jazz. And picked up the guitar, started playing bass, and actually at my high school, I started the jazz band. They still have a class now. But my junior year, went to the band director. Hey, let's start a jazz band. So my junior year was an after school class, and senior year it was a full on class. So got into jazz really early. Played a little jazz in college, and then just rock bands after that for a long time. But what my main influences are like 70s rock and like Pink Floyd and Frank Zappa and a lot of stuff from that era, as well as the jazz standards that I played growing up in jazz bands and stuff.
A little bit of everything. I listened to pretty much anything and everything. I was, like I already said, I did musical theater. I was in choir for a long time. I listened to all kinds of stuff from around the world, any genre, from country to even rap. Not even rap. I meant even country, but like metal, jazz, pop, rock. I mean, just a little bit of everything. So I just allow myself to be influenced by all of it. Was listening to like trip hop earlier today, along with some new metal. So
no, that's amazing. I listen to all different genres of music as well. Obviously, I'm hosting a music podcast, but I heard in this album, here and there, I heard peppered through there a little bit of ska and a little bit of early No Doubt. In my in my brain. Well, that's what I heard. Everyone has their own interpretation, but I heard a little bit of Gwen in there from the early stuff, and I thought that was interesting and pretty cool. I want to get into some of these songs, though. They're all very well written. Did you guys both write these songs? Who is the lyricist on these fine tunes?
The lyricist.
Probably on lyricist here.
You're the lyricist? Nice. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
But one of the videos I saw is when I take my eyelashes off, you forget that I'm pretty. I want to know what the origin of that song was, how you came up with that.
Ooh,
The video was amazing, by the way. Loved it, and
thank
I like the
you.
song. Nice and jumpy, and it's got a little story to tell. So tell me about the story behind the story. How'd you come up with that?
Well, I won't name any names. I it did kind of spawn from a single person, but then sort of grew into just something a little more general. But the main thing is I was just getting very frustrated with being a female singer and musician and how it really felt like the only way you could get attention as a woman in music is if you made it sexy and added a lot of sex to everything. I'd like watch other female musicians get tons and tons of attention, get shows, get, whatever they want to get, managers, everything, just because they were showing off some skin, and it mattered less and less what they sounded like and if they were making good music. But even
They
then I
weren't.
was
Yeah,
but
I
even
agree.
then I was noticing, like, even women who were making good music, people engaged with them more when they were like showing some cleavage or getting pictures of their ass or something like that. People just really struggled to engage with them as musicians and take them seriously as musicians unless they were actually like showing off. So it was really about that, is just this feeling, especially as a woman, that you have to be a full package. You can't just be a singer. You can't just be a guitarist. You can't just be a songwriter. You can't just be a drummer. You have to be a model on top of all of those things.
Right. Yeah. I'm a guy, so I'm not in your shoes. I can imagine how frustrating it can be, but I have seen it from the outside. I was speaking to these guys about one of my favorite artists, Jen Wigmore, and she is so talented in just what comes out of her soul is amazing if you've seen her live, and you guys have seen her live. But she doesn't kowtow to that stuff, but she doesn't sell out those big arenas because she won't do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually proud of her for that. I'll plunk my $50 down and go see her show. And if it's a small, intimate venue, that's better for me. Of course, I want the world to know who she is and fill up, big arenas. But I kind of see where you're coming from. You got to put it all out there to get recognized. And
Literally.
yeah, literally. And to Adam's point, a lot of it's not very good anyway. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's not. It's
Mm.
really
it's
not.
just hot garbage. Um, but not my garbage. I love the band Garbage too. So I'm a big
Speaking my
Garbage
language
fan.
here.
Yeah, yeah. Shirley Manson, man, I love her to death. Seen her a few times up close and personal.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, well, they had a book signing a few years ago for their coffee table book, and so I met her at that, and then I met her in Atlanta at the bus when they came out after the show. So she let me take a picture with her. I'm staring at it, so that's why I'm looking up. But yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
she's pretty cool. Another one of my favorite songs on here, and I'm a brand new fan, just discovered them very recently, but I love the song "Don't." Um, and I shared it with a friend of mine at my day job today. He said, "Oh, that's really, really good." And I said, "Yeah, I'm talking to him later today, so he's going to check you out when it comes out on Friday." But tell me a little bit about "Don't." What was what was the story behind it? And I'm going to talk about these songs. That's why, So hopefully you can get into that. But I want to hear about "Don't." Tell me about that.
That was one, at least lyrically, it didn't really have any sort of backstory. I do tend to write lyrics that are a little bit darker, a little bit more about heartbreak and loss, and we can certainly get into some of the other themes on both those CDs. Um, so it wasn't necessarily based on anything specific. But the really fun thing about Don't is that I brought it to one of our practices a long, long time ago, back when we had a different piano player, Tyler Olfers, and we just kind of jammed to it one night, and that's how the song came about. Is that everybody just our drummer was there, everybody was just kind of feeling it, and we wrote the song based on me just singing the lyrics at a band practice.
That was kind
Nice.
of the way that our band came together from the beginning. With we were at a practice with our old band, and Carrie came and said, I've got this new song for you guys. I want you to, see what we can do with it. She started singing Whatever It Takes, just a cappella. I picked up my bass and started playing Whatever It Takes, the part that's there now. It just happened. Everyone else in the band is like, I don't understand what's going on here.
What are
it's
these
like,
breaks?
just hold on to this. We're going to do something with this. This is that. Then that's was kind of the beginning of the band completely, was that song.
That's pretty cool. Well, Adam, is there a particular track that sticks out to you from either of these, from the EP or the album? Is there one that kind of stands above that really pulls at you? That
Well, so I engineered and mixed and mastered all of those songs, so they're all super special and to me, I wouldn't. It's like picking between your children. I couldn't pick a favorite.
I got you. I've written
I'm gonna
15
I'm
books.
gonna
I get it.
diplomatically say that.
Nice. Well, you guys, and again, because I'm new and don't know your background, tell me and my listening audience a little bit about your touring. Where have you guys been? Where are you going? Where can people see you live? I'd love to go see a show if I could get to one.
Well, right now we're just playing in Austin. It's where we're based, Austin, Texas. We've just kind of been struggling to figure out where our people are and where our fans are. And Austin, it is known as the live music capital of the world. And unfortunately, that means that there's a lot of competition.
Very
A lot of
saturated.
competition, especially post pandemic. There's a lot of competition for space, a lot of competition for venues and gigs and airtime,
Fans.
and fans. So actually, one of the reasons that I started doing the promotion for the free CD was to actually find out where else our fans could be, because we were having a hard time finding them in Austin. And so I was like, you know what? Everybody who listens to our music loves it. I'm sure there must be people out there who want to hear it that just aren't getting it because they're not physically near us. And so right now we're not touring, but as we get out there, get our sound out there, get our music out there, and find more people, we are starting to find kind of these pocket areas where people are really enjoying it. They're buying into it. They're joining our email list. And so my hope is that in the next couple of years, we'll be able to start going to some of these places, and actually playing outside of Austin and outside of Texas. Because I think as much as I love Austin, I just don't think Austin gets us.
Well, I get you. I thought it was really good, and the promotion for me, you got me. It worked, and I'm going to go back and purchase the vinyl because I do collect vinyl a little bit. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, it's some good stuff. It really is. You guys go check out caravanthorn.com. They have all kinds of cool stuff you can purchase right from their website. You get these nice thank you cards and everything.
And we do screen print the t-shirts ourselves.
The two of
Nice.
us made them all.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys, that's
We're
impressive.
our own shop here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we screen print. I literally like hand pack and hand write and everything. So like it's not coming from a fulfillment center if you're getting CDs or merch or anything. So if it takes a little bit longer than a day or two, it's because I'm actually having to collect everything and print labels and put it all together. And at some point my hand cramps from writing all of those thank you notes.
Yeah, well, I got mine amazingly fast, and I kind of do the same thing when people purchase books from my website, not Amazon. I sign them and put little thank you notes in there, and it means a lot to the people who receive it. So this meant a lot to me. So thank you. The personalized letter was awesome. So now coming up and starting Cara Van Thorn, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced getting this thing put together and kind of getting your feet underneath you?
I would say what we just talked about is finding our audience. The music was the easy part.
Yeah.
We've been so lucky. The great thing about Austin is it being so saturated with musicians that we can pull from all of these super talented people. And the people that we play with are so great that help us bring the songs together really easily. That's the easy part. Um, Finding the audience has been a nightmare.
I agree with that. I'm gonna disagree a little bit because I think when we first started, the music was actually really hard. Like we had a couple of songs that we knew that we wanted to do, but right at the beginning, which is this is like over a decade ago, it was difficult figuring out what we wanted our sound to be, where we were going. I don't play any instruments, so I was literally no help here. I was just like, here's some melodies and some words. And so I remember we have a cover of All of Me, which you can go listen to. Uh, and it was, I mean, that one took years to finish and release because when we started, we were literally just playing around with different MIDI sounds and trying to figure out what we liked, what we didn't like. We would go through songs where we would add everything we could in because it sounded empty and then come back a couple years later and pull stuff out or change things. And so I would say at the beginning, even the music was very difficult just because we were trying to figure out what we were doing musically. Now it's so much easier where all six of us, I would say, are very, very in sync. And so it just makes it so much easier to come up with a song and write it because everybody feels really inspired by the music and engaged with the music. And so we can just, our last song that we just wrote, I brought in a chorus, just literally melody and lyrics for a chorus, and we now have a full song, and that took 3 weeks.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. I'm glad you shared that. You know, I'm sure you guys have been through many, many challenges fine tuning your work. I do want to go back to something we kind of glossed over, and it's in the bio notes here. Founded by Donkey Island alums. Tell me about Donkey Island. What is that exactly? I want to know.
Oh, Donkey Island.
That was where we met. We were playing with. I had just moved to Austin, so I didn't really know anybody in the music scene yet, and I was working at a AV installation store and met our guitar player that introduced us to each other, and we played for about 2 years,
If that.
if that, year and a half, and then it spiraled into Donkey Island, where we just kind of took off from there.
So, is Donkey Island, was it a group?
Yeah, it was a group.
Yeah, it
Donkey
was.
Island.
It was
That's a
one
cool
guy
name.
based on the Pinocchio.
The Pinocchio, where the bad kids went, and they came back
Oh, okay.
donkeys.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Donkey Island. So yeah, it was kind of like red dirt rock, a little bit of blues influence. But it was one guy who put it all together. So he worked with Adam and he worked with my partner Tristan, and that's how I met him. And he was just like, "Hey, I used to be a musician back at New Orleans or something,"
Yeah.
and then he moved to Texas and was just trying to start that up again. But I think it suffered from not. It was a band that we all had different goals and wants from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why it just ended up not really working out in the long run is we all just wanted very different things.
Yeah. Well, I think Cara Van Thorn is working out very well.
Oh yeah.
From what I've heard, and what I like about it, from what I've heard so far, is can't really pigeonhole you. The songs, you do have a thread, but they're different. They're not. It's not the same thing. Doesn't hit you over and over again in my headphones, and I really like that. So you take left turns here and right turns there, and I like the flow of the album. You know, there aren't too many. And I'm trying to find the words. I described this to another band I talked to a few weeks ago. Um, Albums seldom tell stories anymore. You listen to tracks in a lot of artists just have individual tracks and they don't really feed, like one doesn't feed into the next to the next to the next. And I think maybe the digital era and the streaming and all that has contributed to that. But I really like to sit down and listen to an album from front to back, and it kind of takes you on a journey. And I kind of felt that with this one. So you guys go check this out. Go buy it from their website, caravanthorn.com. They have the vinyl. I'm going to pick that up soon. But what's your opinion on how the album reads and listens to the, to whoever's, listening to it?
I mean, I definitely put a lot of work and thought into that because I do think it's important. I think it's important just to make sure that you're not putting all of your very similar songs together at once. I'll use a couple of examples. Savage Garden had a horrible album because they put their two best songs right at the beginning, and the rest of their songs were just they weren't the same at all, and so it just didn't really work. And so I'm like, why would anyone want this? But that was back in the day before streaming, and you had to buy the album if you wanted the music. But then a great example is Poe had a really wonderful, she was definitely a storyteller in her music. And she had this album, Haunted, that
Agreed.
she created actually out of finding these old recordings of her father. And so she weaved those into these in-between moments between the tracks. So every track felt very cohesive. And so those are definitely two edges of how you can make an album, but definitely something I wanted to do was keep the listener on their toes and not feel like, oh, I'm just listening to the same music over and over, and oh, they've completely changed now. I want it to kind of flow and get high and low and high and low.
Like a live set.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good way to describe it. But yeah, I think this album flows really, really well. Another question that I ask most musicians on this podcast, I'm going to ask you guys: living or dead, or both, living and or dead. Who would you love to collaborate with, or would have loved to have collaborated with, if you can or could?
No question, Zappa. No question.
Second musician to say that on my podcast.
Man, that's a tough one to narrow down.
Well, you can have more than one. You can put a couple out there if you'd like.
Damn, well, I'm trying to like separate in my brain. Like there are people, the musicians I just love, but who would be great to collaborate with? That one's hard. I don't know. There are just so many.
There are.
I mean, I could go from anywhere from like Portishead to
Portishead. I love Portishead.
Caravan Palace.
Prince. That'd be a good one.
Oh yeah.
Snoop Dogg.
Oh yeah.
That would be hella fun.
That would be hella fun.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg, we want you in the studio.
Yeah, yep.
Exactly.
If Snoop Dogg's friend is listening to this podcast, send him the link, please.
Send him the grape jam.
Snoop Dogg is awesome. Now, before we came on air, I told you the story of I host two podcasts. I host a horror podcast, Horror 421, the podcast, and I was booking so many musicians on there. It was agitating a friend of mine, and she was a co-host of Horror 421, and she said, "Why do you interview so many musicians?" I said, "Because I like musicians." She said, "Well, make a musician podcast," and I said, "I will." So that's how Backstage 421 started. But before we came on, these two fine people were telling me that they love horror, and I want to know a little bit about your horror background. So this might be a hybrid podcast. Tell me some of your horror likes, so we can talk about that for a couple of minutes.
Well, I'll just clarify. I love horror.
Yeah, she's more into it.
I don't think Adam likes horror at all.
It's not that Adam, I don't like it. It's just
if you want to get a beer or something, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But I love it. You mentioned Stephen King earlier because of my name. Like, I loved Stephen King ever since I think I was in middle school when I started reading his books. Started reading Bentley Little, who scares the shit out of me. Love horror movies. I watch way too many horror movies, like so many that I have to really, really dig to find more that I haven't seen that also aren't the worst thing ever.
Oh yeah.
But I also love crossover horror. I would say my favorite horror film of all time is surprisingly Happy Death Day. I thought it was just going to be another cheap slasher film, and instead it was slasher meets sci-fi meets comedy. So it had
Yeah.
3 different genres rolled into one, and it was just I loved it.
The second one was like slasher meets Back to the Future kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you had Groundhog's Day mixed into there, and yeah, Back to the
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Future, and it was just yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. One of my all time favorite horror movies, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's got a mostly female cast. It had one male cast member who died at the very beginning. It's called The Descent. If you've never
Oh
seen
yeah,
that,
I've seen it
okay, all
twice.
right, nice,
And I
nice.
watched the sequel, which was not as good.
And I don't talk about that one too much, but I don't know if you know this, and maybe you do since you're such a horror fan. But The Descent has 2 endings. You have the UK ending and the United States ending. The movies are identical in every way until the last 2 minutes, and the UK ending is much more sad.
I think that's
So
why I've seen it twice. Is that I got the UK ending on the second time because the first time I actually saw it in the theater.
yeah, if you saw it here, then you saw the US ending. But on the DVD, you can get the UK ending, and it, like I said, it's the same movie all up until like the last 2 minutes, and the ending is completely different. And I like the UK ending better, not just because it's more sad, but I just thought it was a good way to
Not
end the film.
typical, like The
Yeah, it wasn't
Mist.
typical. Yep, yep. Oh, don't get me started on that one. Are you an Evil Dead fan?
Yeah, yeah. It's that one was really interesting. I couldn't really get into the recent TV series. I think at some point I can only take so much vomit.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah. Well,
I'm
Ash
like, all
versus Evil Dead.
right,
Yeah. Well, the film that came out this year, Evil Dead Rise, or last year. Yeah, last year. Um, I love that one because they took it out of the setting of the woods and put it in a apartment building. So I don't know if you saw that one, but that was a good movie.
I
All right.
haven't yet. Need
Oh
to
yeah,
add that
check
to
it
the
out. It's called
list. Put
Evil
that
Dead
on
Rise. It's
Saturday
on
morning.
It's on HBO Max or Max or whatever they call it now. They change the name every 5 seconds. But anyway, I digress. We'll get back to the music. So, Adam, I'm going to turn to you. What are you guys planning on in the future? What can we look forward to from Cara Van Thorn from your perspective? What are you guys working on?
We have. I'm actually mixing the next single. It's called "Got Me Foolin'," and it's got a little bit more of like a '70s soul vibe, a little bit. Super fun song. Um, and actually, you wrote that in the shower, didn't you?
No, you wrote that.
Oh, I wrote that.
I reworked the melody. It started out as a very
No,
slow.
got me fooling.
Oh, got me. My brain is on So Can I right now. That's right. Oh yeah, I did write that. I write most of my songs in the shower. I don't. The shower is like my creative space. Um, I think I think I wrote that about you and your last relationship.
That tracks.
Again, won't name any names. They're not together anymore.
Oh, nice, nice. Oh, geez. So,
But yeah,
do you
that one has a little more of like a funk kind of sound to it.
are you putting songs together for? And I'm not sure again because I'm a brand new fan. I'm not sure when this one came out, how new this is. are you guys working on a new album, or are we still promoting this one full force?
We're still promoting that one just because, again, we're still looking for new fans. So even though that one's a couple years old now, most people haven't heard it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So we're kind of doing one song at a time right now. I think partly because when it comes to new music, we just don't quite have enough yet for another album. But that would definitely be something that we'd be putting together in the future.
Well, one thing that happens in where I'm from, I live in North Augusta, South Carolina. If you can't tell by the twang, don't know why I host a podcast with this accent, but I do. Uh, but and I live 2 miles from Augusta, Georgia. You may have heard of Augusta, Georgia. They have this little golf tournament every year called the Masters. But right across the bridge, I have a very good friend. He owns a record store, amazing record store, Gransky Records. Shout out to Evan. Um, but he opened his record store, and over time, it took about a year or so. He got a stage built out in the back of the store, and he has bands touring through that record store. I mean, he has, I don't even know how many acts have come through there. I don't know if you guys have looked into those kind of venues, but those are fucking fun. Those are fun to listen. You're surrounded by all these records, and you got these people on stage, all different genres. He doesn't turn anybody down. He'll as long as he can sell tickets, they can fill up the store. But I don't know if you guys have checked out those types of things. I don't know what kind of record stores you have where you're from, or if any of those record stores offer that kind of thing. Just curious.
I think.
Well, in Austin, every building is a venue when South by Southwest happens. So
Oh,
you
I
could
got
play
you.
in a convenience store and back next to the beer cooler on during South by.
Someone's backyard, a
Yeah.
shed. Yeah, every record store in the city becomes a venue, but not regularly. I don't think. I can think of a couple of record stores, and it's not something I do all the time. It's usually during some sort of festival.
Yeah, I think
So
Evan
that's
must
cool that
hit
your friend
this.
does that.
Yeah, he must have hit a sweet spot because uh, in Augusta's like the second largest city in Georgia. That doesn't make it a big city. It's not, but it's not Atlanta. But he gets a steady stream of pretty decent names coming through there. So that's why I asked that question. If you guys are ever coming through Georgia, we'll get you in there. Uh, he fills that place up.
Awesome.
But
Nice. I mean, I love venues like that are just a little bit different and non-traditional. One type of show that we did earlier this year, it wasn't a traditional venue, but it was a very non-traditional show. We watched a ton of silent films
oh,
and
nice.
took our songs and pieces of silent films and built a whole story around that. So it was about an hour and a half long show with an intermission. And we just kind of took the themes of each of those songs, paired them with a clip from a silent film, and then wrote a story out of all of that. So the whole band was on stage, the silent films were playing in the background, and it was just, it brought out the musical theater kid in me.
That's pretty cool. I like unique stuff like that. And personally, as a music fan, I'm not a musician. My dad and brother are the musicians of the family. They can play string instruments, and I can't play anything. But um, as a fan of music, I love going to smaller, intimate venues. Now, the bigger places are fun too, but when you can be so close to the artist, and you, there's not a bad seat in the house. I love going to shows like that. Just love it. I'll take that over a big arena any day. Not saying I haven't had fun at arena shows, but those tend to be more intimate, and I don't know. I just have more fun, it seems like, but I digress.
I agree. I think it's just about finding that balance. I think the nice thing about I mean, I would enjoy playing those smaller venues too because you can actually see your audience, engage with your audience, especially coming from a theater background. It is really really hard to be on stage when you're not getting that audience feedback. And I imagine, like, I mean, I'm sure, like, if you're Taylor Swift and people are screaming all the time, or Harry Styles, it feels very different. But the arena almost feels like you're watching a TV show, and all of this
Oh yeah.
audience is just pre-recorded versus a smaller venue that's more intimate. But as an artist, on the flip side of that, it's really, really hard to tour when you're playing smaller venues because you just don't make enough money to cover your expenses. Right. So it's kind of trying to find that trade-off and that balance of, like, small venues are great, just from that, like, intimacy and engagement perspective, but they're not money makers.
Yeah. Well, I saw, and I'm going to talk about Jen again. Sorry, but in 2022, I saw Jen at the Motor City Casino, and that seemed like the perfect size venue. It wasn't too big and it wasn't too small. It was like, the Three Bears story. It was perfect. It was the right size for her audience and to still be kind of intimate. So it wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny either. So I had a real good time at that show. Motor City Casino. You guys need to go play that. We need to get you there. That would be awesome.
Gotta start making a list here.
Love to see.
Have to go back and rewatch this. Be like, okay, he named this place, and then this place, and then we got to check out this place.
Yep. Well, I tend to ramble on these podcasts, so I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to let this be your time. And we promoted this stuff throughout the entire podcast, but I want you guys to promote whatever you want to promote. Tell them where to find your stuff. I'm going to put links down below, so all they have to do is click, and they can find it. But talk about yourselves for a couple minutes before we close out.
Do you want to go first?
Go ahead. I don't know what to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is just for whoever's listening, just keep listening.
Please.
Like, find us on as much as Spotify is extremely problematic for musicians. It is a way for everybody else to kind of see where your fans are, who's listening to you, if people actually like you. It is a selling point for artists. So please make sure to check us out on Spotify, follow us, listen to the playlist, stream everything. Check out our website. As you mentioned, you can get merch on there. We literally handle every single piece of merch. And then with the promotion that you took advantage of, that is a specialty promotion. So that's something where you just got to keep on your socials and see if you can find it. But if you don't want to wait and see if you can get your free CD from watching one of our ads, you can also just go online and buy any of this. There's vinyl, there's CDs, there's the EP. We have What I Hear in My Head on a USB drive that flips out, looks like a little credit card. You can just stick it into your computer. And on that one, we've also included the music video for When I Take My Eyelashes Off. And then if you are in or near Austin next month, we do have a couple of shows coming up. One at the Highball, which is next to the Alamo Draft House, which if you're not familiar with it, I think it's kind of expanded outside of Austin finally, but it is a movie theater that serves food and alcohol while you watch your movie. And so this is a bar that they've included off to the side of one of those. And then after that, a place called Geraldine's. So if you're in or near Austin in July, go check that out. But otherwise, another big thing that would really help us, especially in as we figure out if touring is financially feasible and where we can go, sign up for our email list. You don't have to buy anything. Just kind of show us that you're interested and where you are, so we can start pinpointing those places on the map where we can actually find our fans and be with our people and play our music.
Well, you found a fan in North Augusta, South Carolina. I'm so happy I've stumbled upon the free ad that you guys put out there, or it wasn't free for you. You guys had to pay for the ad, but sent me the free CD and purchased the add-on. What was the name of this thing again? Coco Can't Turn Left.
Coco Can't Turn Left. And I'll tell you something about that. So we found that's actually a photo online of, and what was his name? The photographer was Albert something, but he was also from New Zealand. And we reached out. That photo is owned by, I think it's Christchurch Library. And we specifically reached out to the Christchurch Library and asked if we could use it. And we got confirmation via email that we were allowed to use that.
That's awesome.
Very,
the New
very
Zealand
old
connection.
school.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I want to thank you too for being on the show. It was very much appreciated. Well, I'll do my
Thank you. It was
best
a lot of fun.
with my audience to get your name out there, and hopefully we can get some more business rolling your way. But you guys are super talented. Your lyrics are awesome, and the music is good. So
Thank you.
I really appreciate you guys being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am Charles Campbell, small town horror author. My latest book release is called The Piano Witch. That came out last October, but I have a brand new book coming out later this summer, probably come out late July, early August, called Signature, A Cut Above. It's about a psycho beautician, so you don't want to miss that. You can find everything
Nice.
related to me at valleyboypublications.com. All of my social media links are there, and you can purchase paperbacks of any of the books that I put out. You can also go to Amazon, but I prefer you go to valleyboypublications.com because Amazon takes too much money. Anyway, you guys have a good rest of your week, your day, and thank you two again. I'll let you guys have the last goodbye. See you later.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Backstage 421, the Musicians Only podcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Listener support links can be found below. Thank you for your support.